Hello, Rivermen and SPHL fans. Thanks for joining me and watching yet another video. In this segment, we're going to be kind of talking about Rivermen's Game 1 against Quad City Storm and Marksmen's Game 1 against Knoxville Ice Bears. Just a quick review leading up to their matchup this weekend, a 2-game set in Peoria. So we're going to preview that matchup as well as follow up what they did in their game ones. Thank you for joining me, and it's always appreciated. And let's get right into it. So just briefly, we're going to go over some of the numbers that were recorded in their game ones and who did what, and then we'll get right into previewing their matchup against each other. And we'll start with the Peoria Rivermen, who were visiting the Quad City Storm, who had a great showing in Quad Cities, better than I anticipated even, and were pretty dominant on the scoreboard throughout that game. So I was pretty pleased with what I saw, and it was a much needed win to give us confidence going up against Fayetteville Marksmen, who will be a tough matchup. So against the Quad City Storm, Rivermen had 29 shots on goals total. They allowed 34 shots on goal, which is a little uncharacteristic. Quad City Storm got a majority of their shots on goal in the second period. But again, Nick Latinovich had an outstanding night. Only one got by him in that second period, and it was a tip-in goal by Devin Sanders that just snuck over his pad. Nothing Tino could have done about it. But the Rivermen only allowed that one goal the entire game out of 34 shots against. As I stated, they had 5 goals scored against the Quad City Storm. They were 1 for 3 on their power play and took 4 penalties in that game for 11 total penalty minutes. So, not bad numbers overall. Like I said, they gave up some shots on goal. 34 Storm had, so you'd like to see that number come down a bit. But other than that, some pretty solid numbers. Goal scores, you had Alec Bear with 2 goals, including an empty net goal. Griffin Fox got the game's first goal. Michael McChesney got the game's second goal. And then you had Braden Barker get a goal as well. Newcomer, pro rookie, Lazarus Cable got 3 big assists in that game against Quad City Storm. So a great debut for him. He played very well on defense. And you had Fox with an assist as well as a goal. And Garrett Devine and Corey Dennis with assists as well. Tino only allowed 1 goal and got the win and stopped 33 of 34 shots. So, like I said, you couldn't ask for better from Tino. He played a great first game for us, and Storm had some great scoring opportunities against him as well. He just really stood tall that game for us, and that was much needed and very promising to see. Going over to the Marksmen and their game against Knoxville Ice Bears, they had a pretty good showing at home against the Ice Bears themselves. They had 30 shots on goal, only allowed 21 shots against them, 1 goal against, 2 goals scored, and they were 0 for 2 on the power play. They took 3 penalties. That was for 12 penalty minutes. So 1 more penalty minute than the Peoria Rivermen, but took 1 less penalty. So again, pretty solid numbers. About the only thing you would like to see is maybe a power play goal, but they only had 2 opportunities. And maybe you'd like to see out of 30 shots on goal, maybe 1 more goal. But really, you can't complain too much for a game 1 with those numbers and getting the win. And you had Colby Muse start in game 1 against the Ice Bears. And again, like I said, he only allowed that 1 goal. and he looked pretty good outside of that. Marksmen goal scorers, you had Chance Gorman with one, and Caden Cahill with the game-winning goal. Two players I highlighted that need to be productive with Marksmen for them to be successful. Like I said, Kobe Muse only allowing one, got the win, stopped 20 of 21 shots on goal. So, you can't ask for much more out of him. Now heading into Peoria, both teams looking pretty good. It's going to be a very difficult matchup for both teams and a test for both of them for sure. Now, over the last 5 seasons, Rivermen and Marksmen have met. The Rivermen have a winning record against them at 7-2 over the last 5 seasons, winning their last 4 games against Marksmen, and all 4 games were played in Peoria. So we have a 3-game sweep, and also they played in 1 game last year, and that was in Peoria, and Rivermen won that in a 3-0 shutout. So last year, 3-0 shutout, and then the year before that, they swept the Marksmen in Peoria, their last 4 games. Now, before those 4 were played, also not last year, but the year before that in 23-24, Fayetteville Marksmen and Rivermen played each other 5 times. Like I said, Rivermen swept them 3-0 at home, and Fayetteville swept them in Fayetteville to get their only 2 wins in the past 5 seasons. Now, the year previous to that, in 22-23, they only played 3 times, and it was in Fayetteville, and Rivermen swept them in those 3 games as well. So that's where you get the 7-2. The only 2 games won were in 23-24 for Fayetteville, and it was a 2-game sweep in Fayetteville. So in Peoria, if you want to be technical, they are 0-7 in Peoria, the last 7 matchups there. So Fayetteville tend to struggle in Peoria. Now, granted, in those 7 matchups that they've lost in Peoria, Kobe Muse was not at net. So it could definitely be a different outcome this time around. And that's what I'm sure Fayetteville is hoping for. Now, does Kobe Muse get both starts in Peoria? I don't know. We'll have to find that out together. I do expect Nick Latinovich and Kobe Muse to be the goalies in Game 1. Now, they could be the goalies in Game 2 as well, or Rivermen can go to Jack Boston, or the Fayetteville Marksmen can go to Mason Bowpit. We'll just have to see how the coaches want to play that. I'm not a coach. I'm not an insider, just a fan. It's early in the season, so you could see, Tino and Kobe Muse take the net both times, or they could want to see Mason Bowpit and Jack Boston early as well. So, again, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Splitting the series is a realistic expectation for both teams. Obviously, both teams would like to sweep the series, but sweeping the Rivermen in Peoria for Marksmen is going to be extremely difficult for them to do, more difficult than Rivermen sweeping them. Like I said, Fayetteville is 0 in their last 7 games in Peoria. So to sweep them, it's a tough ask. You could say they're due for a win, and they got a pretty good goalie in Kobe Muse, but they also had a pretty good goalie the other times too with Ryan Kinney, and we still found a way to win in Peoria all 3 games that we played the previous year and the game we played last year. Probably wasn't Kinney in all of them, but I'm sure we faced Kinney more than we didn't. So, like I said, it's not going to be a gimme game for either team. Both teams won their game one and looked pretty strong. So, they both look to continue that momentum. Like I said, I think it was big for Rivermen to not only win, but win in the fashion they did in Quad City to give them some momentum and confidence heading into this game and home opener with Fayetteville Marksmen. Takes a little bit of the pressure off because there would have been a lot of pressure on Rivermen to win had they lost against Quad City. Because like I said, you don't want to start the year 0-2 or, God forbid, 0-3. So for both of them to get that game one win against two tough opponents, because Ice Bears is a tough opponent in their own right. Marksmen kind of drew two difficult opponents for their first few games of the year. So we'll have to see how it goes. I at the very least expect a split with these two teams, but it's going to be a grind 'em out series. Rivermen look to play a very physical game and wear down the Marksmen as the game and series goes. So we'll see if they can hold up to that in Peoria. Like I said, I'm always going to favor my Rivermen to come through. Obviously, they're not going to win every single game of the season. I'm realistic. So they do got a good chance at dropping one of these games. But I think Rivermen are more than capable of holding their own against Fayetteville Marksmen, who look to be a top contending team this year. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap this up. I wish Fayetteville and Rivermen both good luck and hope they stay healthy throughout this series. And we'll see what happens. So I'll catch you at the next puck drop. And of course, I always keep it Rivermen style.